All right, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakwadash. I want to say and give double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to the elect, Lord willing, with some of those men and women that believe and fear in the name of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, and are waiting patiently for the day of salvation, the day of our redemption. Hey, I'm the brother Gabar Yahawada from GMS Hawaii, coming to you to another lesson, and it was inspired by a conversation I was having with the chat and entitled Pre-Flood Violence and Corruption, right? Pre-flood violence and corruption or slash flood behavior. Now, I did a lesson on this some time ago, and that term flood behavior, I remember hearing Elder Yashawamba mention it before, and that's what you see going on in this world. And as the day of trouble looms, as the day of the Lord's wrath, and ultimately the day that Yahweh sends his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, back for deliverance of the elect and also to destroy Babylon the Great, aka America, in 2/3, along with the nations. I lost my train of thought, Salakia, brother. Right? But the things that are happening today are the same things that happened yesterday. Real quick, this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verse 9. The book of Ecclesiastes 1, verse 9. And it says, the thing that have been, it is what shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So like we're in what you would call Act 2. Like Act 1 was the flood, right? Act 1 was the destruction of the world, the whole entire earth with water, right? Now Act 2, certain portions of the earth is going to be hit with fire, right? Real quick, this is the book of I believe 2 Peter chapter 3. Second Peter chapter 3. Yep. I'm gonna go straight to the point. Chapter 3, verse 5. It says, for this they are willingly ignorant of that by the word of the Most High, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water in the water, whereby the world that then was being overflowed with water. The world that then was the time of the Adamites, the time of the sons of the power and the sons of men at the time, as well as the sons of the wicked. That was the first death, right? Which was water, which was by water, right? But the heavens and the earth, which are now, which is the same earth, the earth that we're walking on and living on right now, is the same earth that experienced the flood. By the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and the perdition of ungodly men. Right? And the word for perdition is destruction, right? I'm going to read this in the NLC and the AMP. And by the same word, the present heavens and earth have been stored up for fire, right? Yep. They are being kept for the day of judgment. So all this that you see going on in the earth, even the people that are still languishing and lingering on the earth, they're being kept for their judgment. When ungodly people will be destroyed, the ungodly people of Israel, as well as the nations who are ungodly, they're going to be destroyed. Right? It says, yep. Well, I'll read this. But beloved, be not ignorant, for this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Right? So, this happened in a period of time. Right? Shortly after all creation was created, right? You end up having the sons of the power going off, right? And then when they were dealing with the women of the other nations back then, they were doing the same thing that they're doing today, which is following after these women and their customs and idolatry, right? I'll give a great example real quick, but let me read this real quick. But you must not forget this one thing, dear friends. A day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years like a day. Exactly. So to the Heavenly Father, 1,000 years is just like, it's like a 24-hour period, right? But for us, 1,000 years, it's a long time, right? So, but it's nothing to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, right? It's just a day, right? So a great example of Israelite men dealing with the Israelite men dealing with the heathen women and turning to their idols, right? A great example is like Keith Thurman, right? He's a boxer. I don't know if he still boxes. Keith Thurman wedding, right? This guy right here, this dude's a Jake, but he married an East Indian woman, but in order to marry this woman, he had to adopt her ways, and then I think she might be like Chinese too, so they had like a Chinese wedding or a Japanese style wedding, right? But this dude, when he married his woman, he followed her customs and her ways. She didn't follow his customs and his ways, right? Look at this shit, right? He got him an East Indian woman, and obviously her family allows her to marry this Jake because he was a well-known boxer, wealthy guy, right? He's of some type of significance. But this guy, he ended up marrying this woman. Look, and she's an East Indian, and she got her customs, but then look, they're following Christmas, and these are Israelites too. They look like East Indians, but these are Jakes. These are not East Indian girls, right? This is showing that our people are scattered amongst the nations. But real quick, let me go back to this. So again, there's nothing new under the sun, right? All of this happened back then, the pre-flood, right? The sons of the power going off. Because let's look at Keith Thurman's background. I know he ain't no heathen, right? Keith Thurman, come on, bro. Come on. Just Keith Thurman, right? Keith Thurman, right? This guy right here, Keith Thurman, was born in Clearwater, Florida, to an African-American father. So he's a Judite and a European-American mother of Polish-Hungarian descent, right? So this is why he has the powers, because, hey, this is the son of the power, right? So let me read this real quick. Just the book of Genesis, chapter 6. Just bear with me, brothers. Yeah, Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of the power saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they chose. And Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be in 120 years, right? And it says there were giants in the earth in those days, and people take that word Nephilim and try to apply it to some, so freaky, monstrous, giants type people dealing with sicking a rod into the daughters of men, right? No, these are sons of the power that became renowned, right? Right? It says right here, it says there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of the power came in unto the daughters of men, meaning they had sex with these the other nations' daughters, right, whom they liked, and they bear their children, and they bear children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So just like you see that happen here, like this dude Keith Thurman at one time, his joint says one time. At one time, he was a mighty man in boxing, right? His father found a European American woman, and she could have been Jake, who knows? But let's say for all sense of purposes, his mom's is an Edomite. Well, his dad is an Israelite, and he went into a Edomite woman, had a baby, and that baby became a mighty man, right? A warrior, all right? Keith Thurman. Okay, and what happened is it wasn't the fact that Jake went into the women of the other nations. It was that when they went into these women of the other nations, they didn't just deal with these women and these women conform to their ways. Jake ended up conforming to the women's ways and thereby destroying yourself, right? Because this is idolatry. This is her customs and her culture that he put on. And you know, you a Jake in America, your culture is really a culture of captivity, right? And oppression, right? But he's an Israelite man. She's supposed to follow his power. She's supposed to follow his ways. He's not supposed to adopt her ways, right? And that's where Jake got into trouble. This is where the trouble came in at, right? This is where the trouble came in at, right? You know, Jake find these women of the other nations is beautiful, and he take on their customs and their ways, man, right? And they end up destroying them, right? And that's what corrupted the man, because you start following their idols, right? And that's flood behavior, right? This is what led to all of that, because then as you got corrupted, you went into what? Idolatry. And everything that's evil comes from idolatry, right? I'm gonna get this real quick. Sirach chapter 10, 7. Sirach 10 and 7. It says, pride is hateful before the Most High and men, and by both doth one commit iniquity. Let me skip back. Full chapter. Right, it says, Salakia. Right. Ooh. Verse 12. It says, the beginning of pride is when one departed from the Most High, and his heart is turned from his maker. And that's what happened to the sons of the power. Right? The sons of the powers, during the flood, hearts were turned from the maker. And it happened again when we became Israelites. Like I was saying, when you go back to 2 Peter chapter 3, right? It says, verse 6, it says, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished, right? But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. Perdition is destruction of ungodly men, right? And that starts with the sons of the power, aka the Israelites, Yasha Allah, right? And then it goes to these heathen nations who are ungodly men. And they're going to be destroyed, right? But they're not being destroyed just for the sake of being destroyed. It's well warranted, right? That's why I had these two, what inspired me to do this lesson was I came across these two stories via social networks, right? You had this Jake named Kerryon Jones, 34, was arrested Sunday morning in Wilson County. He killed, he killed 2 people and injured 5 in a shooting, a so-called mass shooting, right? It says a person is in custody following a shooting at the Kickapoo Lucky Eagle Casino. So Jake went up into the casino and shot it up. Eagles Pass that left 2 people dead and several others injured, according to the Eagle Pass Police Department. They're going to get this dude the death penalty, too. The shooting happened around midnight Sunday in the 700 block of Lucky Eagle Drive. Said a person was wanted in connection with the shooting and was captured in Wilson County hours after the shooting in coordination with multiple enforcement agencies. The suspect has been identified as Kerryon Jones, right? And Jake is the new face of terror, 34, by Wilson County Sheriff's Public Information Office in a phone interview with KSAT. And this is Jake right here. Slacky.
A deadly shooting overnight at the Kickapoo Casino in Eagle Pass led police and authorities on a chase all the way into Wilson County, about 3 hours away, where they arrested this suspect. His name is Kerryon Jones. He's 34 years old. He's being charged with 2 counts of capital murder and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. We were there as he walked in front of our cameras inside the Wilson County Jail before they plan to extradite him back to Eagle Pass. As we learn more information, we'll bring it to you on KSAT.com.
Born in America.
Yeah, you see Jake, he looking bugged out, right? Could be MK Ultra, who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what was behind this, but this is flood behavior, man. Right? It ain't just eat them. Look at this nigga. It ain't just eat them, the sons of the wicked. It's Jake going crazy, man. And it ain't just Jake. It's all the world is full of violence right now. Because what? The man of sin is ruling, right? Esau, Edom. There's another article, at least 4 dead and 8 injured after shooting at a Mormon church in Michigan. Church allegedly set ablaze by gunmen on a weekend when shooting attacks also took place in North Carolina, Texas, and New Orleans. So now you're starting to see an uptick in so-called shootings, right? You had the last one, the main one, well, major one was with Captain Kirk, right? And you know what I'm saying? Captain Kirk, and now you got more going. And this happens, shit, every presidency. During Barack Obama, there was a bunch of mass shootings. During Trump's first tenure, it was mass shootings, right? I believe it was a few during Biden administration, right? Remember the Sandy Hook one during Obama, right? Then they had that Batman movie shooting, right? Mass shooting, right? So this is all violence, man. And in a righteous society, this wouldn't be happening. That's why the scripture says this. This the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 2. Proverbs 29 and 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And right, the people in the world is not rejoicing because the righteous is not in authority. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn, right? The people mourn, right? That's what you have going on in this society because of all the death, destruction, all the flood behavior that's happening, right? In the NLT, it says, when the godly are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked are in power, they groan. And the AMP says, when the righteous are in authority and become great, the people rejoice, but when the wicked man rules, the people groan inside. And that's all you see going on in this world. You saw that image right here. It's a lot. That image right here. These people are mourning and crying because of these so-called shootings. And a lot of times, you know, you got crisis actors, and you know, you really don't know what to believe, what's going on, because there's so many lies. But this is wild, you know, right? You got people just losing their shit, right? Right? All because this is the things that said it was the Lord said was going to happen in the last days, right? This is St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because of iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, right? And the NLT and AMP says sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. And AMP says because lawlessness is increased, right? And that lawlessness is not so much to do with Esau's law and him. It's really you breaking the Lord, Yahweh Shai's law down here. So you people are lawless out here, right? Because lawlessness is increased, the love of most people will grow cold, man. Right? Let's see what that word cold means. Shall wax cold. Psycho. Right? People are going psycho. To breathe, to blow, cool, blowing, to be made, to grow cold, cool or cold. Metaphor for waning love. Because it ain't no love here. Right? Ain't no love. Only love here is by the remnant, right? The elect of Yahweh Shai. That's true love, right? But what you have right here is people are going psycho, right? Look at this Jake right here. This nigga looks psycho, bro. Right? He don't even have a reason why he did what he did beyond the demons being on him. He just look like he's out of his fucking mind. He don't even know where he at, right? He don't know where he at, but they're gonna get this dude. They're gonna charge him like a man that got sense. But you can tell that dude ain't right, man. He's bugged out. And this is the type of shit that was happening prior to the flood. That's why I open up with this precept, Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. The thing that have been is that which shall be done, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is what? There is no new thing under the sun. So the same thing happened prior to the flood, right? You had men, the sons of men, the sons of power going completely off, right? Then you had the sons of men going completely off. Then you had the sons of the wicked, Cain, and his descendants completely moving in violence. It's the same thing you have going on today. The Israelites are going off. The sons of men, the wicked, they're becoming a stumbling block. I'm sorry, the sons of men and the sons of the wicked have become a stumbling block into the sons of the power, the sons of Yasha, right? And they corrupted the earth, right? So it says, how bad was the violence in the people prior to the flood? What happened on the earth then? Before the flood, the Bible describes the world as being filled with violence, corruption, and widespread rebellion against the Most High. And that's what you see going on today. They have commercialized rebellion against Yahweh Bashem Hawashai. Openly breaking his law, statutes, commandments, not taking heed, disregarding them, ignoring them, which is the same thing as disregarding. Just going completely left. Here's a breakdown of what's happening on the earth. What was happening on the earth then? Widespread violence. Genesis 6:11. The earth also was corrupt before the Most High, and the earth was filled with violence. This wasn't just ordinary crime. It suggests a society where bloodshed, oppression, theft, and injustice were the norm. And that's what you see going on in this world. That's why you got Jake rapping about being a thug, right? Being a murderer unto his own people, stealing somebody's shit, injustice, bloodshed. They don't shy with killing each other, right? That was the same thing was happening back then, right? Following after the customs of these nations, you become corrupted. And this is what was on the earth back then. What? Society where blood, it suggests, Salakia brothers. All right, so going back into the different reasons in regards to all the violence that was going on the earth. Again, this is point number 1, widespread violence. Widespread violence, Genesis 6:11, says the earth also was corrupt before the Most High, and the earth was filled with violence. This wasn't just ordinary crime. It suggests a society where bloodshed, oppression, theft, and injustice was the norm. And again, this is what we're going through today, right? It's the pre-fire behavior, right? Violence have become the defining feature of human life. And that's what you see, right? Violence is upheld. There's a precept that says right here, right? This is Psalms 12:8. The wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. And that's what you see going on, right? You see that actually going on as we speak, right? In the AMP it says, the wicked strut about in pompous self-importance. And who is the wicked? Esau, Edom, and the wicked of our people. But the wicked is the so-called white man. And he's walking around with self-importance. A great example of that is Nero, right? He's walking around with an extreme self-importance. He's an extreme narcissist, man. It says the wicked strut about in pompous self-importance on every side as vileness is exalted and baseness is prized amongst the sons of men. And that's what you see. The more base you are in this society, the more prized you are in this society. The more vile you are in this society, the more you're exalted in this society. And the same thing was happening pre-flood. Vile. It says extremely unpleasant, nasty, unpleasant, bad, disagreeable, horrid, foul, right? Morally bad, wicked, right? And that's what you see, right? People selling out, people doing wickedness to make it. And you think these people are upstanding people, but when you go pull a curtain to the side, you see how vile and nasty these people are and what they had to do to obtain that. I always give an example. Yeah, I was looking for this video, but there's a video from back in the day where, that artist Cardi B, she was just randomly in a room naked, and no one knew like why that video got released. She was just in an empty room naked, right? And a lot of times that behavior goes back to occultic practices. Well, she was a stripper anyway, so she was known for taking her clothes off. But that's vile, right? That's a low vibration. And she's exalted in this world. She's made rich in this world, and she's turning the minds of the young women into the same whorish manner, right? So again, the wicked strut about in pompous self-importance on every side as vileness is exalted and baseness is prized, man. Right? Baseness. Let's look up this definition for baseness. And it said it's prized, right? Right? Baseness, lack of moral principles and bad character. And that's prized in the society. Same shit that was going on during the time of the flood is the same thing that's happening now pre-fire, man. Moral and spiritual corruption. The phrase all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth, Genesis 6:12, means people were living in open rebellion against the Heavenly Father's intended orders. This includes sexual immorality, perversion, hinted at in Genesis 6:2 with the sons of the power taking wives of the daughters of men however they chose, right? Total disregard for righteousness, law, and justice. And it's the same thing that's happening now. And you're being instructed in righteousness in the laws and justice of Yahweh Shalom Shai via the apostles, the bishops, elders, and the prophets. A great millstone, starting with a great millstone. And the brothers on down in our affiliate camps. A culture where wickedness was normalized. And it's the same thing that's happening today. Wickedness is normalized. When you see violence like this, right? Violence like this, it's just normal. This is not abnormal in the political spectrum that we're in today or yesterday. This is not abnormal behavior in the things that happen frequently in this society. This shit is normal, and this shouldn't be normalized, right? Moral and spiritual corruption should never be normalized, but it is. Wickedness is normalized, right? You see the ABC people, that shit is normalized. They have children, they're exalted, they're on TV, they're in ads, they're in movie, they're in print, they're in everything, right? Constant evil thinking. Genesis 6:5 states, every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This paints a picture of people whose minds were dominated by selfishness. Dominated, because that's the same thing you have going on today. How you know that? Let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me, brothers. Let's see. Yep. 2 Peter, the Wadi Habachim Shah. 2 Peter, chapter 3, verse 3. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Salakia. I want this precept, but this wasn't the one I wanted. Just bear with me, bros. It's got to be in 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter... This is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. And that's what you see going on today. The same thing happened prior to the flood, pre-flood. Without natural affection, truth breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce despisers of those that are good. Who the ones that are good or doing good is the elect. And these people are fierce despisers of it. Traitor, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of the Most High. And when you read that in the NLT, it says, they will betray their friends and be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and lovers of pleasure more than the Most High. And you see that going on today, right? It says, Salakia. Yeah. 2 Peter 3:2 in the NLT, it says, in the AMP, for people will be lovers of self, narcissistic self-focus. It's the same thing that happened during the time of the flood. You see it right here. It says continue even thinking. Genesis 6:5 states, every imagination and the thoughts of the heart was only wicked, was only evil continually. This paints a picture of people whose minds were dominated by what? Selfishness, lust, greed, and violence. And look, this is what's going to happen at the end. Same thing, right? For people shall be lovers of themselves, that's selfishness, and their money. They love money. This is it's all about the bag right now. They will be boastful and proud, right? Scoffing at the Most High, disobedient to their parents and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred, man. And this is what? This is the times that we're in. These difficult times where you're dealing with the same people. It's the same show, just with different players, right? Right? They go called by different names. It says, evil wasn't just occasional, it was continual, to the point where even their imagination was corrupted. So it wasn't like it was an occasional spot of evil happening. It was every day in all things and everything, right? And so I had skipped down and I had asked this question right here. Right here. So the same behavior is happening today in regards to the violence in the earth and corruption. The Israelites / sons of God are going astray in their captivity, refuse to listen except for the elect. This is going to usher in the second death, which is by fire. And it says, yes, you're connecting the dots the same way the prophets did. The Bible consistently shows the pattern before the flood in Israel's history, and now in the last days. Let's walk through it. The same conditions as before the flood. Yahushua said, but as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the sons of men be, which we brought this precept out at camp today. Yesterday now. Matthew 24:37. In Noah's day, the earth was full of violence, corruption, and idolatry. Today we see the same wars, bloodshed, perversions, greed, rejection of the Most High. So just like then, judgment is set. Israelites going astray in captivity. The true Israelites scattered through the slavery and captivity have largely gone astray, serving idols, religions, and cultures of the nations. Hosea 4:6, for my people were destroyed for lack of knowledge. Jeremiah 17:4, thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. Only the elect remnant are waking up in these last days, returning to the laws, commandments, and the testimony of Yahushua. The second death, Revelation 20:14-15, caused the lake of fire the second death. Just as the first world was destroyed by water, this present world will be destroyed by fire. 2 Peter 3:6-7. All right, which I have it right here, right? It says, whereby the world, verse 6 and 7, whereby the world then was being overflowed with water, perished, but the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved for fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. Right? Right? Same thing. Saying nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Right? It says the fire is, Malachi 4:1, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, all that do wickedly shall be stubble. Right? The fire is both nuclear destruction, the missiles, and the chariots of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, bringing fire upon the nations. Isaiah 66:15-16. Right? So look, it tells you that this is heavy right here. The fire is what? Not no hellfire where you burn it forever, but the fire is what? Nuclear destruction, the missiles, and chariots of the Lord. Boom. The elect will be preserved. Isaiah 10:20-22 speaks of the remnant returning. Matthew 24:22 says that the days of tribulation will be shortened for the elect's sake. The elect are compared to Noah and his family, a small group preserved through the judgment while the majority perished. So, in summary, just like in Noah's day, the world is filled with violence, corruption. Israel, scattered in captivity, has mostly refused to listen, except for the elect remnant. This rebellion is leading to the second death, the fire that will be cleanse the earth. But the elect, those who keep the commandments of Yahweh and the faith of Yahushua, will be delivered, man. So yeah, bro, Salakia, I had a lot of pauses in this particular video, but I really hope you got something out of it and you were edified, man. Hey, the same thing that happened before the flood is the same thing that's happening today, right? Pre-flood is what it's called. What? Pre-flood violence and corruption, man. It's the same thing that's happening today, in this time, pre the fire, right? And when our children read these words in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to see the same thing. They're going to see the same pattern, right? It's a pattern, right? So with that, we'll say shalom on to the next. Shalom.